Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. Now it's time for your weekend tech tip, brought to you by Chevy Silverado.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, this week's Chevy Silverado Tech Tip of the Week is just timely, right? It's duck season, and if you've watched the show for 15 years, my favorite thing, and you should know this, out of everything, believe it or not, is to chase ducks. That's really, somebody said this is all you get to do, that would be it. There's literally nothing like it, in my opinion. But everybody's got their own opinions, everybody. And everybody's got their own way of running decoys. I have literally run decoys every which way that you can think of from 1990, okay? I mean, every different way. And I've really, and it might just be because it's easier for me. The way that I rig my decoys is very old school as opposed to maybe what you might think of as being new-ish school. And if you're just talking about droppers and this and that, there's no question, and I don't know if I would say around here, you know, in the Oregon, Washington area, but nationally, and maybe here, okay? The Texas rig, for a number of different reasons, is extremely popular, all right? They're very versatile, it's easy to carry them around, and they're very simple to deploy because you can just throw them and let that weight fall. And when you pick them up, you're picking them up with these big loops that are on there. Okay, tons of great advantages. But that being said, the reason why I don't do that any longer, I only set up 1 year, one particular season, and I ended up switching them all back out to my original way, is because I hated carrying them around. Okay, clanking around, clang, 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 clang. I hate that. Okay, I understand it. But for folks that, you know, that are lucky enough to have private property and they can hang stuff either on their quads or whatever the situation might be, I can see that advantage. But for me, spending all my time on public land, I typically keep I keep every one of my decoys in a bag, okay? And it's not as easy to get those Texas rig decoys in a bundle, into bags. They just become even though that those 300-pound mono or whatever the heck it is pretty much tangle-free, you start stacking them on top of each other, it's a mess. Don't ask me how I know. It was not enjoyable. That's why I switched relatively quickly. This is how I run mine, and if you've watched the show for years, you kind of know. But I just use tangle-free dropper, about 72 inches worth of full wingspan, right? Then a bungee to a J-hook. Now, I am carrying all my decoys, so I want my decoys as light as possible. Now, y'all know if you get these full-size models, this is just a tangle-free, I don't remember what it's called in particular, but they're relatively heavy, especially if you're carrying them. And the weights that I use are a 2-ounce, not a 4-ounce, a 2-ounce J-weight. Now, unfortunately, tangle-free, and they're genius. I love the company, don't get me wrong. And they watch the show, so I'm giving them a little bit of a hard time. Maybe they changed it. They quit making the 2-ounce, which drives me insane. You wouldn't think that, you know, 48, 24 of these things, whatever it is, you know, you add 2 more ounces to each one, that stuff gets heavy, okay? So I like the 2-ounce. I'm hoping that they bring them back. There are ways to get around it. You can buy a 4-ounce and you can cut it off and then drill another hole, because it's just nice because it just clips right onto your keel of your decoy, super tight, super clean, and I can get 24 of them into your decoy bag and carry them around. They're not clanking. You know, it's just a very clean system. Now, here's a couple of different tech tip parts I'm going to give you, okay? So there's 2 different ways to run your dropper lines, but taking the weight out of them. If you're like me, you hunt public land and you're carrying your decoys on your back, this is very simple. Don't overthink this, because you can't find, what do you call, non-weighted or whatever non-weighted keels anymore. I can't find them. So I have to buy what's available. I just take a Sawzall or a hacksaw, cut the back part of the keel off and pour that sand out. It's just that simple. No, now you can't throw it and have it land and self-right, okay? It is what it is, but I can carry a lot more decoys, and that's more important to me than not having to go out and go plop. And sometimes you get lucky and they just land the way they're supposed to, but most of the time they don't. Here's another one. This is one of my boat decoys. When I'm lucky enough to have water, and I can actually get out and run my 5 dozen decoy setup, which I never do. I have a 3 dozen bag and a 2 dozen bag. The 2 dozen bag just sits there. It's crazy. Sometimes I get lazy. But this is on a 12-foot dropper. Same thing, tangle-free, with a 6-ounce strap weight that I actually put around The neck, yeah, it takes some of the paint off, but when you're running that many decoys, I really don't care. But I don't take the weight out of them. Now I can take these decoys and throw them, and they're gonna land, and again, most of the time, self-right. So there's a third way that you can run a 12-foot dropper. Typically, I'm never in water that's deeper than that. There are some times, though. Here's another way that you can actually take the sand out of your keels. You can drill holes in them. I tried this with these coot decoys. Worked really, really well. Just another way to get the sand out, make them a little bit lighter. Here's a decoy, and this is 2 years in the running now. See how that decoy looks? This is one of the ones that I actually carry around in my backpack, in my bag. They're on my back when these are getting used. Look at the paint. These are lifetime decoys. I don't know if I'd call them lifetime forever, but this is just a really interesting decoy to look into. So there's one that you might want to take a look at as well. Last thing, okay, because I'm already out of time. The question was, how do you clean your decoys before the season starts? What's the best product is what I was asked. Soap material, whatever. Don't. Keep those decoys dirty from last year. Most of the ducks that you're going to be chasing, no matter where it is in the state of Oregon and Washington, are locals. They're not fully plumed. They're not full colored up. Great tip that I got 100 years ago, Jerry Ronnie. Don't clean those decoys before the season starts. Run them all muddy because those ducks aren't all shiny like they will be in the end of November going into December. It might not be an advantage, but it sure looks more natural at the very least. All right, we're going to cut to a quick break. And for all of you that have been chasing pike minnow, well, it's over, but we'll let you know how things wrapped up. We'll be right back.